Welcome, everyone, to Stories Round the Table with Hudson and Joni. We're here to bring you tales as sweet as a glass of sweet tea on a hot summer day. From the rolling hills of Tennessee to the dusty trails of Texas, we've got stories that'll make you tap your boots and clap your hands. On our podcast, we interview amazing country songwriters and singers, sharing stories of love lost and found, of cowboys and outlaws, and of the simple joys of country living. So grab a seat, pour yourself a drink, and get ready to be transported to a world where the stars shine bright and the music never stops. Whether you're a city slicker or a country bumpkin, there's something here for everyone. So sit back, relax, and join us on a journey through the heart of America. Welcome to Stories Round the Table with Hudson and Joni.
Welcome back to Stories Round the Table. Today we have a very special guest, a true legend in the world of country music. Please welcome the incredible Shannon McCombs. Shannon has been a driving force in the Nashville music scene for decades. Her insightful interviews, sharp wit, and deep knowledge of the industry have made her a beloved figure among artists and fans alike. From hosting iconic shows like America's Opry Weekend and CMT Insider, to breaking news stories on Shannon's Country News, Shannon has done it all. She's interviewed countless legends, discovered new talent, and shaped the sound of country music. Today, we're thrilled to have her join us at our table. So let's dive into the conversation and hear the stories only Shannon McCombs can tell.
Joni Harms.
Hey, Joni. How you doing?
Oh, good. Man, it's a long time no get to talk to you. It's so nice to have you on the show.
It's great to hear you. Great to hear that wonderful voice of yours.
Oh, back at you. Man, everything's been going great for you, though, hasn't it?
Things are going well. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, it's hard to keep a good girl like you down, that's for sure.
Right back at you.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad you're on here, and I guess Hudson already said hello. The sad thing is we've got only about a half an hour to hear all the stories you have to share, and I know you're on the other end of the microphone this time, which is probably kind of different for you, but we would really love for you to tell us how you made your start and got all the way to having such a wonderful, exciting career that you've had.
Well, you want me to start? You mean to start in radio? I can.
Wherever you'd like to. How you first got to Nashville or got started in radio, whatever. I think it's all people would love to hear about.
And it was like, by the way, Hudson, it is great to make your acquaintance.
Yours as well.
Heard a lot about you, and it's great to know you. It's all good. And Joni and I will say, go back a long way because I think we bonded over a song of hers called "Weakness for Cowboys."
Yeah, it's a good song.
Early 2000s, right, Joni?
Right, and you were kind enough to play my music on a lot of your XM shows, and I just always appreciated that so very much.
Well, I will say kindness had nothing to do with that, but because you just are darn talented, and that's why we played you. Your kindness is why we became friends. So it's but I'll get back to your question. I just wanted to say that because it's just great to reconnect with you.
Well, back at you, and I appreciate it on both occasions. And yeah, it's just great working with Hudson. We're excited about, kind of trying to highlight some of the 90s music that, some of it seems like it's trying to come back, which just I am so excited about. And we'd love your thoughts on that when you get a chance too. But yeah, I just loved the music that all kinds of folks were making. You were doing all the interviews with all the folks in the 90s. And so, jump around if you want to. I already done that, but yes, let you lead the way.
I will. And I'm still doing a lot of interviews. That's kind of my thing now is I do a lot of interviews and still do a country radio show on a weekly basis. But, you mentioned music. Music is why I got in this industry. And I think most of us were drawn for just that simple thing, music. I never wanted to be a performer, a singer, or a musician. But radio is what drew me, and I got my FCC license when I was in high school. Back when you had to have a license, and hung on to it until I got a job right out of high school. I just started banging, literally knocking on doors, cold radio stations. I didn't live in a town that had a radio station, so I had to go to nearby towns. And finally, someone hired me. My first job, I was hired to not be on the radio, but to sell radio ads. It was a small radio station, literally out in the middle of a cow pasture.
And that's how they used to you, though. Back in the day, that's how the radio stations kind of were. They were just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, this would have been 1980.
No squint.
Literally, we got knocked off the air a couple of times because of the cows, and they ended up having to put a fence around the tower. So I had a very country beginning there. But I was in Kentucky, Shannon. It was Cave City, Kentucky. The radio station is no longer there. I drove by there a couple of weeks ago. I was in that area and just pulled over and looked at that cow pasture for a minute and went down memory lane.
Yes.
WKVE in Cave City. But I worked at 6 different stations before I made the jump to Nashville and started out in rock and roll in Nashville. It's 103 KDF Rock. And we were playing bands like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Aerosmith, Motley Crue, back when they were still making hits. Now they're the legends. But and from that, I started working in. Had an opportunity to get into country music, as far as television, which was not my aspiration. It wasn't really what I was looking for, but I wanted to be into music. So I started hosting a show for the Nashville network, was very glad to get the job. Don't get me wrong. Radio was my passion. TV seemed to be a way to promote it, honestly. And I enjoy TV, but not the way I do radio. But anyway, I started doing a show for the National Network. And
What was that called?
the Country Music Video Album Hour.
Okay.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. I do.
Great. We talked with I talked with Lee, the show, like Randy Travis. Remember doing a show up at his house? And,
Yep.
yeah. And I'm trying to think of who all we did. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band at the time. Basically, if we could interview an artist that had an hour's worth of videos, they were subject to that show. Tanya Tucker did a show at her house.
That was actually one of my favorite shows growing up. I really, really enjoyed that show a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's my fault for not connecting, but you really got to learn about the artist and the videos, and it was an amazing show.
I'm glad you liked it. I appreciate that.
Of course.
It was a lot of fun. It was, and I have to admit, it was a little scary because I was not used to doing television, and it was a big learning curve, to do stuff like that. But it kind of launched me into more television. I started doing a show after that on Nashville's Channel 4, which is NBC affiliate, and I hosted the morning show and got to do a lot of music segments there. So from there, I've worked in radio and television, CMT. I've done a lot of freelancing for all kinds of networks, things that have ended up on Fox News or CNN, MSNBC. I'm just kind of like in freelance world, you just take a job wherever it is. You know what I mean?
You've had a great career, though, Shannon. And I mean, and all these things have been, just stepping stones to the next place you land, it seems like. And everybody that I always, would talk to had the same thing to say, that I think one of the reasons that you were so successful is you just always made the artists feel so comfortable. So the first time I met you, I thought, now that's the kind of person that makes it easy for me to talk. You just had that presence about you, still do, that makes people just think right away that you're their friend, and they don't have to be worried about it.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I think it's just the basic is I just love what I do, and I appreciate musicians and artists, and even though I'm not a writer, I just being around writers and musicians, I'm inspired in my part of the industry. I can spend an evening with songwriters, and then I go home and I'm all pumped about writing a radio show or producing something. I get inspired by creativity, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I kind of have a little bit more of a personal question. You had mentioned that you came from a small town.
Yeah.
And in a small town, everybody dreams of that big chance to just kind of make it. And you did. And then you said recently that you went back to your home area and you can even find the radio station anymore. So what's it like now going back? You still have those memories of being that small town girl who wanted to make it, but now you did. And then you went back. How does that kind of make you feel?
Well, Brownsville, Kentucky is where I grew up, population of 500. And very proud of my hometown. And I grew up actually about 3 miles outside of that town. So I grew up way out in the country. And I'm still a country girl. I'm still in Brownsville quite often. I have family there. And so I've always gone back. When my parents were alive, it was I constantly drove home. It wasn't that far from Nashville, an hour and 45 minutes, something like that. Going back to Cape City, driving through there was it made me feel thankful, it just brought back a lot of memories. I'm really glad of some of the choices that maybe I didn't make, but just kind of walked into. You know what I mean? You know how that happens? It's like sometimes while you're thinking about what to do, something happens to you and you do it. And I feel like that worked out for me a lot. Just being in the right place at the right time, right person believing in you. The opportunities that I did not get that I thought were kind of like Garth Brooks saying unanswered prayers. I think of the steps I almost took, and I was so devastated by, not getting a job or, not moving there. And then later going, oh, thank you, God, for putting me on this path. Nashville, I'm a family girl, and I'm tight with my family. My siblings are my best friends. So living close to them was important. I've been fortunate to have some great job offers that, could have taken me across the country. And I was never enticed by those because of that. I know some people would think that, oh, wow, you really didn't do much for your career. My career is important, but it was never that important.
Well, Nashville's Music City, Shannon, and that's where you belonged. And you had so many opportunities that didn't work out because of your talent. But I got a question. I got to ask you if there was ever some times, I know there has been for just about everybody, and I know our listeners would get a kick out of that too. A lot of listening to all your success. Were there some times that you remember when, it's something just, you had an interview that went sideways or just some sort of a thing that might be a chuckle for everybody that even somebody like you once in a while has things not just go their way. Oh my God.
Oh, Joni, that's because we're a podcast, isn't it? We're still learning.
Boatload of stuff. I've done interviews where I finished it and the recorder wasn't on, or it ran out in the middle of it.
Joni,
I've done
don't say nothing.
interviews. What do you say, Hudson?
I said, Joni, don't say nothing. That might have happened to me. Just saying.
Hey, it happens. You think you push record and you didn't. You hit the button while not looking at it. I've shown up before and gone through my kit and not had the microphone with me. Everything but. Thank God, now on your phones, all you have to do is pull it out and record it. But
and usually the artists or the people you were working with are pretty understanding about all that, weren't they, most of the time?
Oh yeah, if you tell.
Hey there, country music fans. Love the show? We're thrilled to announce the launch of our brand new website, Stories Round the Table with HudsonandJoni.com. That's right, Stories Round the Table with HudsonandJoni.com. There, you'll find everything you need to stay connected with the country music world. Browse past episodes featuring your favorite country artists Get a sneak peek at upcoming shows and even learn more about Hudson James and Joni Harms, the dedicated country music enthusiasts behind the mic. But wait, there's more. Now you can show your love for country music with our brand new merch. From comfy tees to stylish mugs, we've got something for every country music lover. Head over to the website to check out the collection and rep your favorite artists and the genre you love. Stories Round the Table, your go-to for all things country music. Visit Stories Round the Table with HudsonandJoni.com today.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, artists are usually really good at that. There have been a couple of times in my career where I've been yelled at by artists. And I don't want to say his name because he's very famous, and we are friends. We've made up, but I don't know what he made it up to do. He was just in a bad mood that day. But we were doing an interview for it was an ABC network interview, and I had been given all the, normally in my job, I write my own questions. But I also know, like if I'm working for a certain network, I know what they want. So sometimes you zoom in on that and you don't ask this, this or that. Well, this particular interview, ABC had handed me a ton of questions. And in my opinion, they made no sense for the program that they were. But anyway, I knew that it was overload, but we sat down with this really famous artist. It was backstage at CMA Fest years ago. And I started asking these questions, and they were awful questions. And he yelled at me, and literally yelled at me. And I broke into tears. I don't know. I guess it'd been a long week. Nobody sleeps that week. And absolutely. I was working for 3 different networks that week. And when I did, I just startled him. But he didn't say anything, and I kept on going. I kept on talking, but tears were rolling down my face. And later on, he came to me at another interview and apologized. But, you never know what's going to happen. People have bad days. He probably had a really long week, too. I'd had a longer week. It was just, but, it's memorable that it was a bad thing at the time, but, we got through it. And we're upcoming later.
I just think sometimes it's good for our listeners to hear that there are, real moments in every career because, being a singer or songwriter or someone like you that gets to go all these different places and interview famous people, it sounds so much like it would be just the perfect life and everything is always just, wow, what a lucky person to get to do that. But it just shows the real side that, every kind of business, no matter what it is going to have highs and lows. And it's how you get through them, isn't it? You got to cowboy up, so to speak.
Cowboy up. I'm sure you've had the same, we've talked about that before, about the same sort of situation in both of your careers. It's...
And I think there's also some kind of misconception, too, when it comes to Nashville. Growing up, you listen to the music and you love country music and, Nashville is the capital. But I think also some of the misconception is everybody just thinks Nashville is just music. But it's really not. Nashville really is the Hollywood version of LA. But it really is. They do tons of TV show tapings there. There's probably as much money in Nashville as there is in LA. And people just kind of don't think that. They see CMA Fest and they're like, oh, cool, my favorite celebrity signing an autograph, right? But they don't see that it really does have that other side to it. It is just as much high pressure and as much controlling as Hollywood.
I think from what I saw being in Nashville, when they signed on for the show that was called Nashville, our city really changed. It was like a weekly 30-minute, what was it, an hour show? I can't remember now. I watched every episode, but it was like a weekly billboard for our city. And when that show went on the air, things started to in my vision, just from being there, really started to get crowded. Venues started being more crowded. You couldn't just walk into a venue anymore. A lot of them, you had to have reservations. A lot more tourists, and I can't say for a fact what they, with the changes of Nashville, how much of that they say is that show, but I know it had a lot to do with it. It was like the beginning of a lot of things. The Chamber of Commerce there worked hard to get shows into Nashville and to promote it, and suddenly the city exploded, and it is just bulging at the seams.
Yeah, it is. It really is the Western version of LA.
Oh, and that's what happened with Yellowstone and getting the whole Western industry, more popular again. Dressing Western and Western clothes and all that kind of has come hugely back around because of that. So I think you're right on. I want to know, though, how it changed from when you said you first got to Nashville, you worked with rock and roll music. How did you get switched over to the country? Was it that TV show that kind of helped that start to happen?
It was. And I love rock and roll. I just came to Nashville wanting to work in country. I had tried to get a job at WSM before I got the KDF job at Rock, and I wasn't qualified, and I knew I wasn't. But they were really nice to me. But the KDF job I got when it was an overnight job for a while, so I worked my way into a better shift. And I forgot the expression of your question. I was leading into it.
Yeah, I was just asking how it did switch over to you being a country music DJ, and I guess it was that video show that you got invited to host on TV, and then that moved you more into the country things all the way around.
It is, and I guess I was trying to show you how I was trying to get into country, and I ended up in rock and roll. Yeah, with the video show, I was still working full time at KDF Rock, and I was doing middays. But we would tape the show. Sometimes, you know how it is. You get an artist when you get an artist. So I would take vacation days and go and shoot a show with Randy Travis. Or I remember when I shot the Randy Travis show, telling him that I had just done a Motley Crue interview, and he mentioned it in the show, so it was kind of funny that he would bring that back up. But I went from interviewing Motley Crue that day to interviewing, Randy Travis that afternoon.
You can't get more for the Randy Travis.
So sorry, what?
You really can't get more country than Randy Travis.
No, and you can't get more rock and roll than Motley Crue, so. But yeah, it was, on the days that I could not work, I had to take off and use up my vacation time. That's how I segued into country music.
Very good. And that's, is there, you've interviewed everybody from Dolly to Garth to Merle Haggard to all the legends. It's really, really been quite a run for you, hasn't it?
It has. I've been so fortunate. Merle Haggard, I remember him coming into XM. You know those studios, Joni. You were in there several times. No, this was when XM was in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Merle Haggard came in one day to do a show and met him that day. And then I was working, because I've always worked different places. I was working at the Opry as well. And I worked at the Opry for 13 years. I did interviews for them for a syndicated show that they used to air. But he came in, the way it worked out is that he came to the Opry that night. And it was the most wonderful experience with him, because I got there early. And if you get there early, if there's an interview or something, nobody else is there. It's just a couple of people in the hallway, And I see Merle walk through the back door like 2 hours before the show, and said hello to him. And he walks into my dressing room, which is where I do all the interviews, and sat and talked for a while. And then he left, and he walked around a while, and he came back. And I got to realizing that he didn't know a lot of people there. I was thrilled to talk to him, but I also realized that, he wasn't a Nashville guy. Everybody knew him, but he got to know a lot of people. I remember he walked into my dress. One of the times he walked into the room, I was interviewing Billy Currington. I don't think Billy and I have ever talked about this since, but he just walked in and you could just hear Billy's face. It's like, you can imagine. Billy was a young artist, and Merle Haggard just walks into a small room with you and says, hello.
Oh my gosh. And so really you got to spend that time with Merle, and you weren't interviewing him. You were just hanging out visiting.
Yeah, and I, showing him around backstage at the Opry. Now, it's not like he hadn't been there, but he hadn't been there in a long time. And well, yeah, he just wasn't familiar with how to get around back there. And you've been back there. You know how it squares off, and uh, you just kind of have to know your way around. So that was fun. That was very cool.
Yeah, what a fun story.
Well, every one of our interviews, we just never really seem to have enough time. And we still have some time left, but I have one really good question for you, Shannon. That's kind of more about the music industry and you as a radio host. I think really might have some insight on this question, and maybe it's just me that has interest in it. But you started with radio before internet was really ever a thing. Now internet's kind of taken over all of music in general. And I know XM definitely played a good part in that, but when you first started, how do you see the changes with the internet, radio, internet streaming, and just live radio in general?
First of all, I love it all. And I think technology or radio is awesome. I know a lot of people are scared of it, but I've tried to jump in from the beginning and be a part of it. The show that, just to tell you, I mean, the show that I do on a weekly basis, a lot of podcasters run it. It's a 90-second news segment, and a lot of podcasters run it. So I'm all about it. I think and people who are constantly telling me, radio's going away, nobody's going to listen to radio, but as long as people are driving cars that don't have today's technology, and there are a lot of them, there will be radio. There will be regular radio, because that's what people go to. Not everybody is, I know we think they do, but not everybody is carrying around their iPods, or hooking up their car. And once all the old cars are gone that, aren't technology ready, then I think there will be something to worry about.
But we won't be around probably then either. So there we go.
Yeah, but there you go. But that's my opinion, Hudson. That's how I see it.
And, I think the internet radio is kind of a thing. I had an internet radio station for a little while. I didn't do too much with it, but, I think it's just kind of shifting. We used to just tune in our dial and listen to the radio, but most radio stations now have their program online. You can download their app, and you can still listen to your favorite radio station, but through internet instead. So maybe it's just the broadcasting part that has changed. But
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, just the broadcasting, the streaming, however you word it, that part might have changed. But yeah, I think radio will always be there.
I think the way I use internet radio is, like I'll be sitting here at my desk and I'll say, Alexa, play so and so radio station, and she will play it. It's like, so it's being at my fingertips like that. I don't drag that into my car. I listen to regular radio in my car because I'm just a geek. But when I'm in my home, I do listen to internet radio.
Very good. Well, you are certainly one of the very best at what you do, and it's been really special to hear some of your stories. Thank you so much for sharing that with Hudson and I today, and everybody that's tuning in. Speaking of podcasts, this is all new to me, but I'm loving it too, and I think you're so right in that you can't just say no, things aren't going to change, because they are. So the best way to do it is to embrace it and try to roll along with it and fit in where we can, and find the good positive parts of it all.
Yeah, the world is on. Let's go for a ride, but it's great talking to you. Joni, tell your daughter I said hello. Hope she's doing well.
She's in music now full-time too, Shannon, so I'm sure she wants me to tell you hello and give you your best. Hopefully we'll connect sometime soon.
Will do. Thank you both. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. I wish we had more time. We just never do. But your stories are really just genuine and just really sincere. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I'll hope to see you both soon.
Thank you, Shannon. All right. Bye.
Next week, we'll be sitting down with Nashville booking agent Jimmy Dasher. Jimmy has worked with some of the biggest names in country music, and he's got some incredible stories to share. From booking legendary artists to navigating the ever-changing music industry, Jimmy's insights are sure to be fascinating. So tune in next week for a behind-the-scenes look at the world of country music booking with Jimmy Dasher.
This is a Lone Star Legacy Productions